Welcome to the Baseball Together podcast with your hosts, Blackjack Brad and Briggy Blue Eyes. And now, Baseball Together.
Baseball family, welcome to this week's episode of the Baseball Together podcast. My name is Brad. I will be flying solo for this week's episode once again. Brig is off doing school stuff for the rest of this week, so it'll just be me today, and then live I'm going to be joined by Kyle again, I believe. I have to double check on that one. And then Sunday we will have a pre-recorded episode. We're going to do Panic or Patience, first edition of this year's season. So make sure you check that out. And while you're on the internet, don't forget to check out Chinook Seedery. Head to ChinookSeedery.com to get the best seeds ever. You can trust us, or you can go off their word. They have it on every package. We truly believe they are the best seeds ever. That's why we're partnered with them at ChinookSeedery.com. If you use code BTPOD, you can save 10% off your order. Support your mouth, support your wallet, and support the show all at the same time. My flavor of the week is cinnamon toast. A little bit of sweet, a little bit of salty. It's all very nice. Briggs is always Parma Pep, which is outstanding, by the way. So go check it out if you haven't. Again, BT Pod to save 10% off your order. And that also supports the show, once again. Okay, there's a bunch of stuff. I was putting this together today, and I had a list super duper long. And I was going through, and I was like, you know what? We try to keep this episode to like 30 minutes-ish. Right? Especially by myself, you probably don't want to hear me talking for more than 30 minutes at a time. So typically it ends up being between 20 and 25 minutes when I'm by myself, because I know that without Briggs' voice in there breaking it up for you, it can get long. So I cut a bunch of stuff. I know there is some stuff that I missed last week I'm going to miss this week, but that's just the nature of the beast, because sometimes when a bunch of stuff drops at once, it's hard to get it all in at the same time. So I know there's some stuff that I'm missing here. I think that we're going to touch on some of that stuff when we next week when we record our extra episode for Patreon. So if you have not checked that out yet, head to patreon.com, search Baseball Together, or hit the link down in the description. That'll take you right to our Patreon page where you can sign up and support the show directly with 5 tiers of support. You can check those out and see what each of those are. But everybody gets different things, and one of them is an extra episode every single month. It's just kind of a free-flowing conversation with Brig and I. But we're going to start with this. Corbin Burnes, he left Sunday's game in the 5th inning with forearm tightness. Uh-oh. Dun, 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 right? I feel like that should be playing every single time we talk about forearm tightness. After his 70th pitch, which was a single to right field by C.J. Abrams, the ball was like, I watched the replay, and the ball was like barely out of the infield, and he's waving over to the dugout to have the trainer come out and talk to him. It didn't look good. It didn't sound good. None of it did. No word yet on exactly what's going on with Corbin Burnes, but he did tell MLB.com after the game, it just got to the point where the tightness was just too much. Then he later added, I've never had anything like it before, so I really have nothing to compare it to. That's scary for the D-backs. Because he's been their best guy in their rotation so far this year, which, you know, you would expect. He's Corbin Burnes, right? He's Corbin freaking Burnes. There's no reason that he shouldn't be the best guy in that rotation. I mean, even with guys like Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, right, Brandon Pfaadt, that should be a pretty good rotation, but things have not gone well for really anybody else besides Corbin Burnes. He is leading that group with a 2.66 ERA. Next in line is Merrill Kelly at 3.78, but then you got Zach Gallen, 5.54. Oh, sorry, Brandon Pfaadt at 5.05, which is amazing because he gave up 8 runs before he recorded an out on Saturday, I believe it was. And so the fact that his ERA didn't take an astronomical hit, taking on infinity for a single outing, right? That, I don't know. But like I said, Zach Gallen 5.54, and then Eduardo Rodriguez, who was supposed to be a dude with a capital D, right, coming in from Detroit last year. Didn't really pitch a whole lot last year because he had that lat strain, I believe it was. And then this year he hasn't been good. 7.05. 7.05 ERA from Eduardo Rodriguez. Something is wrong with the D-backs pitching. It was a problem last year, right? They scored more runs than anybody, but they still couldn't get their pitching figured out to the point that they could keep other teams off the board enough that they could win enough games to make the playoffs. So my concern with the D-backs, and this is the thing, is as you can, if you're watching, you can see I got Mariners hat, Mariners jersey. That'll come in play later. I'm a Mariners fan. However, I live in the Phoenix area, so as being a local and the team not being a division rival, I feel like I can cheer for the Diamondbacks, right? I always tell people, like, I'm a Diamondbacks fan 159 games out of the year because they play the Mariners 3 times, and I will go to those games when they're here in town, and I will cheer for my Mariners. But those other 159 games, I want the Diamondbacks to succeed. I want to have a good team in town. And so to say that I'm worried about the Diamondbacks is legitimate. It's a legitimate concern that I have for this team that I want to succeed. Okay? But I'm worried that this could be it for them. If he goes down, he's kind of the last hope that they have, right? Because of the rest of the situation that they have with that starting pitching has not been good, and the bullpen just is a wreck, right? I mean, we talked earlier this year about that game that the D-backs played against the Cubs, where it was like 15 lead changes in an inning and a half, whatever it was, or something. Anyway, you can't have that many lead changes in an inning and a half. I know, but the reason those games are exciting is because you don't have pitching. So I don't know. We'll see. By the way, Corbin Burnes is in the first year of a 6-year, $210 million contract. So maybe it's better to get it out of the way in the beginning if it's Tommy John. I don't know. It's scary to say though. Some more numbers that tell you how bad the D-backs pitching has been this year. They have a collective ERA of 4.81. That's 7th worst in MLB, down with teams like the Marlins, Angels, Rockies, and the A's. And we'll get there. They're allowing 5.19 runs per game. That's 5th worst in Major League Baseball. So pitching is a significant problem for the D-backs. And if Corbin Burnes goes down, it will be an even bigger problem. And you might start to see them tear things down. Because the offense first approach, I should say offense entirely approach is not working. It's not working. They're going to have to figure some things out and I think do some rebuilding. And this is just a couple years after they went to the World Series. So, I don't know. I think the D-backs are in trouble, though, if Corbin Burnes goes down for any significant amount of time. Not even the rest of the year. Significant amount of time, they're in trouble. All right, let's move on and talk about the automated ball strike system. There will be no ABS in 2026. We all assumed that after positive reviews and everybody loving on it during spring training this last year, that it was inevitable that we were going to get the ball strike challenge system in 2026. But Bob Nightingale of USA Today says not so fast. The system is likely to be delayed until 2027 after player feedback with the buffer zone. From what I heard, I tried to listen to as much stuff and read as much stuff as I could today about this. Apparently the buffer zone is a problem because if you remember, we talked about this. It seemed like MLB was not exactly transparent and forthcoming with the change in the buffer zone that they agreed upon with the umpire union, right? Going into the season. MLB said, "Oh, yeah, we told everybody." And and all the teams and players were like, "No, you freaking didn't. We didn't hear a word. We never got a memo." That's one of those things where I would be going through my emails, going like, "Rob Manfred, MLB, I don't see anything. I don't see anything from you about this," and checking junk, trash, all of it. None of it's there. But one of the things that I did hear today was Jim Bowden was on making his, I think he makes a weekly appearance on, he's a former GM on Foul Territory. And he said the one player in particular who complained about the ABS challenge system was Max Scherzer, because of course he did, right? I think mostly he feels like he's not getting that friendly zone that he gets being a well-established veteran with the ball strike challenge system, because he can throw a ball off the plate and it's called on the black, quote unquote. But then you get a batter who's like, no, that ball is off the plate, challenge, and then Scherzer doesn't get that strike that he would normally get. So I'm sure he doesn't like it. However, I don't know how much longer he's going to be in the league. I'm sure he'd love to pitch till he's 50, but I just don't think that's going to happen based on um, how things have gone for him the last couple of years. I don't think he's going to be healthy enough to even be in the league by 2027. Probably he's in his 40s for crying out loud. But anyway, I digress. Um, this, like I said, this could be based somewhat on the lack of transparency that teams talked about with the buffer zone. Um, Also, this could be an issue that players are taking with them to the table to prepare for negotiations with the CBA expiring after the 2026 season. It could be one of those things where, like, we agreed on this. It's somewhere we can meet them in the middle, something we can take to the table that we know that everybody likes, everybody agrees on. And so maybe the players are taking that and putting it in their pocket, and that's what they're planning to use it for. I don't know, but that's something I'm thinking about with this, is that it feels like there's a lot of posturing already with the CBA, because there was something else a few weeks ago. I can't remember what it was, that both the players and the owners agreed on, but then they pulled back. It's like, oh wait, no, we want to hold off, and it's the safety base. David Sampson said that the safety base it's going to happen in MLB, but it won't happen until after the CBA is agreed upon, because they're gonna pull that back and take that as something that they can bring to the table as a commonality, as a mutual agreement to help in negotiation. So if that's what it takes to help get a deal done sooner, great. I'm all for it. I can hold off on the ball strike system. Just gives me another reason to yell at my TV, which is always great, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong there. We've gone this long without the safety bag. We need it. But if that helps, again, further the process of the CBA, pull it off the table right now, and let's not visit it until after the 2026 season. I'm fine with that. So keep an eye on this, though. This is, like I said, this is going to be an interesting thing coming into the new CBA. So it'll come. We'll get it, and we'll probably get to enjoy having it in spring training again this next year once we get to spring training 2026. But won't be in a actual meaningful MLB game until 2027 at the soonest, is what it seems. We had a couple promotions over the weekend and into today, I guess. Two top 100 prospects were called up in the last few days. The first one, I'm so excited about this. I was stoked out of my mind when I heard that this was happening. The Mariners called up number 43 prospect, MLB prospect, Cole Young, for Saturday's game against the Twins. He made his debut. He was the 21st overall pick in the 2022 draft out of North Allegheny High School in Wexford, Pennsylvania. Go Tigers. There you got it. He was actually pulled from Friday's game with the Tacoma Rainiers and told in the dugout by the manager that he was going to the show. He said, I love what you've been doing lately. Take that with you to Seattle tomorrow. And he's like, yeah, wait, take it where? It's like, to Seattle. You're going to Seattle. And it was awesome. Everybody in the dugout was stoked for him. He spent the rest of the game in the dugout with his teammates watching the game. And that's important here in just a minute, that he was pulled mid-game. But in his debut, he went 1 for 4 with a walk. And one of his plate appearances was a fielder's choice, but ended up being a walk-off. It's a well-placed dribbler down the first base line, allowed Miles Mastroboni to score from third to win it. According to Alex Meyer with the Mariners, he's only the second player ever in MLB history to record a walk, a hit, and a walk-off in his MLB debut. The other guy was the guy who replaced him at second base in the game he was pulled from Friday night in Tacoma, Samad Taylor. That is so cool and so crazy. It just goes to show how small of a fraternity MLB really is, right? That these players, it's like you would think that it would just be 100,000 guys, but it's less than like 30,000 or something like that. Like you couldn't fill most major league stadiums with the number of guys who have played big league baseball ever. You could not fill the seats, which is crazy to think about. And then to think that there's only been one other guy in the history of Major League Baseball to have done what he did on his debut. And it was the guy he probably high-fived on his way out to the field. That's crazy. That's crazy. Must have transferred some of that juju. All right, and then the other guy we have called up, this is a big one. The Royals called up number 10 prospect Jack Caglianone, number 6 prospect in the he's the number 6 pick. He's the number 10 overall prospect, like I said. He's the number 6 pick in the 2024 draft out of University of Florida. Go Gators. As of right now, he has not played, but this is a highly anticipated debut. The Royals need some help, and it seems like, it's offensively at least, and it seems like he's going to be the guy that they're counting on to provide that, because from, again, everything I've read and listened to about this dude, and I think that maybe you have too, baseball family, they say that he's got pop from foul pole to foul pole. He is a big dude too. He's 6'5", like 230, I think, something like 240. Plays outfield and first base, and I think they're going to have him in the outfield because they have the Pasquatch at first base, right? So that makes the most sense. But the funny thing about this call-up to me is that the Royals GM, JJ Piccolo, said it's better, because people have been asking about, why aren't you bringing him up? Why aren't you bringing him up? And he said, it's better to call guys up when the team is on a hot streak. Well, they're not exactly on a hot streak right now. Overall, they're 31-29. They're 4-6 in their last 10. They're 8 games back in the division, but they are right there in the wild card. So, and I know it's the beginning of June, right? But you've got to start playing for position at this point, right? Like, it's starting to matter. We're past Memorial Day. If you're losing, those are going to add up. I mean, we'll talk about that in just a minute. But I think this is great. The Royals need to infuse a little bit of a punch into their offense. We've seen it happen late the last couple of years, but that division's tough this year. I don't think they're going to be able to make the playoffs or the wild card by making a late run at it, the way that the Tigers did last year, the way that that the Royals were competitive 2 years ago offensively and really made some noise after the All-Star break. That's not going to work in the American League Central this year. So I like that they called him up to infuse a little bit more energy into the offense early. So it's going to be interesting, though. Watch him, see how it goes. Should be a good time. For those who had not been paying attention, the Rockies are absolutely terrible. They're off to the worst start since the dawn of time at 9-50. By the way, they're 2-11 since firing Bud Black, so that seemed to really fix the problem, didn't it? I know Brig and I joked about how he knows where the bodies are buried or has some pictures or whatever, but that was purely joking because we knew all along that he was not the problem. The problem is the players they're putting on the field. But some perspective into this terrible start. Again, 9-50. We're in June and they don't have double-digit wins yet. I'm recording on June 2nd, and they still do not have double-digit wins. That is absolutely absurd. They're on pace to finish 25-137. If they go 33-70 to finish the season, they will not lose more than the White Sox of 2024, right? Which hold the record for most losses ever. But that, at this point, still feels like a tall order. This is a little bit more perspective about just how bad this Rockies team is, just how terrible they are as even a collective unit. They have a team B-WAR of -4.6. Now, as a reminder, WAR stands for wins above replacement. Replacement what? Replacement player. Okay? So statistically and theoretically, they'd be winning more games if they replace their entire roster with replacement level players. If you brought in a bunch of AAA guys, a bunch of second stringers from across the league, and you put them on this team, they would be better than what we're seeing right now out of the Colorado Rockies. Unbelievable. What kind of GM gets to keep his job for putting together a team that through the first 2 months of the season cannot win 10 games and not just has a collective negative B-WAR, but it's almost -5. The position players have a collective B-WAR of -5. The pitchers are -0.4 to take it to -0.6. Actually, no. So that, oh my gosh, my math was wrong. It should be negative. I think that should be -5.4. It's even worse. Wow. Rarely does it ever happen that my math is better in front of the microphone than it was before. So there we go. Unreal that this team is that freaking bad. I can't wrap my head around it. I'm sorry, Rockies fans. Before the season started, I thought they were going to give the White Sox a run for their money on their worst record in Major League Baseball history. I thought they would give them a run for their money, not blow them out. And that's what it looks like is going to happen at this point. Unless they go on some kind of hot streak in like August, when everybody's tired and worn out and they take some from the D-backs who have torn it all down, or the Padres or the Giants start to fall apart or whatever. I'm not saying they're going to, but if they would, or they have a couple games against the Marlins or the Orioles. But even the Orioles swept the White Sox this weekend. So they're bad, but they're not. Apparently the Orioles are not poop tier bad, right? Oh my gosh. It's unbelievable. I'm sorry, Rockies fans. And this is coming from a Mariners fan who's had to deal with years of losing baseball. Hey, at least you've been to World Series. Got that going for you, which is nice. All right, moving on. Let's talk about George Springer. George Springer got to third base and was called out on a really weird play to end the fifth inning of Sunday's game against the A's. The Aths, if you will. So he got to third on a double by Vlad. That's scored a couple runs, by the way. I think it scored one. I don't remember. Anyway, not important. What's important is that he got to third base, he got to the bag, and then he started celebrating. He's jumping up and down, right? Celebrating with the dugout right there on the third base side. He's jumping up and down, celebrating with his teammates. But A's third baseman, Max Schumann, noticed. So he has the ball in his glove. He goes over and puts his glove on Springer. Initially, the umpire called him safe. But Mark Kotze says, not so fast, my friend. He challenged, and you can clearly see it in the video. He came off the bag, and they called Springer out. Now, while this is silly and not what replay is for, kids, stay on the bag. If you're going to celebrate, stay on the bag. We saw this. There's a viral clip that's gone around. So if you haven't seen it, maybe I'll see if I can find it and repost it to put it on the Facebook group. That's Baseball Together VIPs. If you're not a member, go join. You can find stuff like this. But I think he's high school or college. I can't remember exactly. But he's celebrating a double and goes to make like an explosion celebration. And shortstop sees it coming, has the ball in his glove, and goes and tags him as the kid brings his foot off the bag and he's out. This is a similar situation, but the difference is that George Springer is not just a big leaguer, he's a veteran. Let's see, how long has George Springer been around? I'm going to look this up because it's been a while, like long enough that he should definitely know better. He's in his 12th big league season. He should know better than to jump up and down on the bag when the ball is not on the mound. Or know where the ball is if you're going to jump up and down. Oh man. And so my thing after this is I was like, man, and the Blue Jays had runners on second and third. That was the end of the inning. And they were trailing 5-3 at that point. Or was it 5-3? Anyway, they were down. I want to say it was 5-3, maybe it was 4-3. Either way, they were trailing. They did end up winning. They ended up putting up 8 and ended up winning the game. So it didn't matter in the end. But man, if they had lost, that would have been unreal. But the reason they lost is because they were playing the A's. Before we move on, by the way, the A's have fallen off a cliff. They're in a free fall right now. They went 16-15 through April, but since then are 7-21. That's not good. For those of you actuaries out there, that's not the way to go. Things are not going well for them. I don't know if they're going to figure things out and come back and kind of improve to the mean, right? Because we expected them to be pretty decent, not make the playoffs, but to be pretty decent and upset some teams, right? Beat some teams that are playing for playoff position, and cause kind of cause a little bit of chaos within the American League. But at this point, they're not doing it. I think they went and they lost like 11 in a row or something like that. Yeah, they're an absolute mess right now, and most of it falls on the pitching, because I have a hard time blaming an offense for a team that puts the ball in play as much as they do. Their situational hitting is not great because they don't score a lot of runs, but they don't strike out, which I think is like half the battle these days, right? Like, oh, we're just trying to put the ball in play. Yeah, put the ball in play and good things happen. But apparently for the A's, that's not the way it's going right now. They're 1-9 in their last 10. They lost 6 in a row, but they lost more than that in a row before. So they're an absolute disaster. Okay, Briggs not here, so we're going to talk Mariners a little bit more. Today, Monday, yesterday, if you're listening to this on the day of release, the Mariners announced they're going to retire Randy Johnson's number 51. It's not going to happen this year. It's going to happen in 2026. I'm very excited about this. Randy Johnson, having grown up in the 90s and as a 90s Mariners fan of Ken Griffey Jr., Jay Buhner, Edgar Martinez, even Tino Martinez, for those of you who know, this is exciting. This is awesome. I can't believe it took him this long to retire his number, because he absolutely deserves it. He was a key piece of the 1995 team that made it to the playoffs, especially when he came in and he shut down the Angels to win game 163 like he did against the Twins in Little Big League. Which was so funny to me, because I remember we went and we saw Little Big League in the theaters, and we walked out and my dad's like, yeah, that's fiction because the Mariners actually made the playoffs. Don't get me wrong, my dad, diehard Mariners fan, just like I am. But as a kid, I was like, yeah, you're right. And then sure enough, the very next year, the Mariners make the playoffs because Randy Johnson comes in to close it out. Just like he did in Little Big League. And I was like, oh, it's like the movie, it's going to happen. So, anyway, so this is going to take the Mariners' retired numbers to 5. That includes Jackie Robinson. It's number 42. But you got 24, obviously, with Ken Griffey Jr., 11 with Edgar Martinez, number 51 with Ichiro, and 51 again with Randy Johnson. So I think it's funny that out of all the numbers, 51 is the number they're going to have retired twice. Oh, it's too funny. It's just such a random baseball number to me, and now it's going to be retired twice in Seattle. So very cool. I doubt I'll be able to make it up for that, but man, I was lucky enough to be at Ichiro's Mariners Hall of Fame induction and number retiring ceremony, and it was amazing. It was so amazing. If I can get to this one, it's going to be awesome. So in honor of that, and I'm pretty sure this is why the Mariners announced this today, is because today in baseball history, June 2nd, 1990, this is the day of recording, June 2nd. Randy Johnson throws the first no-hitter in Mariners history in a 2-0 win over the Tigers. He struck out 8 and walked 6. I know that's not the day that's released, but I had to do that today because of the announcement of Randy Johnson's number retiring in Seattle. As a Mariners fan, I am absolutely thrilled by this. But baseball family, thank you so much for joining me for this week's episode of the Baseball Together podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, and review everywhere that you can. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and give us a like if you have not already. We greatly appreciate that. Again, head to schnuckseedery.com, use code BTPOD to save some money, support the show. You can also, if you need a place to store your seeds, head to seed-sack.com. There is a link down in the description, as always, just like there's always money in the banana stand. And you can use code BASEBALLTOGETHER, one word, BASEBALLTOGETHER, and save 5% off a seed sack. And it's a great little pouch, self-closing clasp. It's a great place to hold your seeds so you don't have to roll up a little pouch and things like that. So anyway, baseball family, again, thanks for joining me. We'll catch you Thursday night.